everybody. Jessica Cutler here with Invents, a corporate event planning company based out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And we are in week 5 of our 8-week informational series. That's crazy, right? If you've missed any of them, they are all on our Facebook page, so you can always go back and watch them. But just as kind of a quick recap, week 1, we talked about how to become an event planner. Week 2, we talked about Invents, the company, sort of its origins. Week 3, we talked about event enhancements, those little things that can be added to your program individually. And then week 4, last week, we talked about what happens whenever you make all of those event enhancements come together into our larger event designs and themed concepts. So last week was a long one. It was a fun one. I had lots of pretty pictures and diagrams and things like that. So if you missed that one, definitely go back and watch it. So I really enjoyed that one. So this week, we are really just going to jump straight in to it. I call it a buzzword because a lot of people use it, and it is team building. Woo! Team building. Who knows what team building is? Right? No one? Everyone? Who knows? Well, team building is really interesting because it's definitely a growing trend, we will say, and it definitely means different things to different people. It is just a super broadly defined term. And, if you asked everybody what it is, they would come back and say whatever they thought it was, and it'd probably be different. And so for that, it really encompasses a wide variety of activities. So today we're going to try to kind of talk about what it is, what you're trying to do with it, what are components of it, what are reasons you would do it. So we're going to just try to dissect all the little things about it. So I'm going to try to pay attention and chitty chat when you're coming on and you're watching. So definitely drop a line. Let me know that you're on here. Let me know your thoughts. And let's get going. All right. So formally, team building refers to a structured group activity designed to facilitate a professional relationship between members of an organization or a company. It's as simple as it gets. That is what it is formally considered. And as you can tell, even that in itself is a very broad term. Just trying to do something that facilitates a closer relationship in your company or organization. So, the focus of team building, though, is to really kind of bring out the best in the group and ensure self-development, positive communication, leadership skills, and the ability to work closely together as a team to problem solve. So I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know when it comes to team building and just the word team and building. Boop, boop, come together. That's what it is. But what I will say is that team building programs can be some of the most challenging and yet rewarding programs that we produce as an event planning company, just because they're going to take people out of their normal environment. They're going to stretch them, grow them, and then hopefully, during these challenges, they're going to, provide an opportunity for just these, impressive accomplishments, as an individual in a unit and then ultimately as a unit together. So they have a lot of cool perks to them as well. One thing that I kind of want to point out is that team building activities shouldn't be confused with, we'll say, like team camaraderie, recreational activities, right? So those are activities that are for teams that are really just more for recreation or social purposes. Like that's what they are. And I'll be honest, we're going to talk a little bit more about those activities in actually week 7. But for today, I kind of want you to understand what makes them different. Why would something be considered a team building and not a team camaraderie, team recreation activity? So I'm going to be the first one to admit I am guilty. I am guilty of, telling people, yeah, sure, we can throw games in the middle of a reception. We're going to encourage that, interpersonal interaction, and that's going to be team building. Because, I'm just, and I'll say, like, even though I know that that's not team building in itself, what happens is when I'm having conversations with clients, I am trying to understand what they want. And I am never, ever, ever, my mama has said, pick your fights. Is it worth the fight? She said this to me 1,000 times. And I am never, ever going to look at a client and be like, oh, You just want games in the middle of your networking function. You don't actually want like a real team building program, right? I am like never, ever, ever going to say those words. But I do think it's important. And what I'm ultimately going to be striving for today is helping everybody kind of understand when I hear you say, I would like to do a team building program, what I think, where my brain goes. So let's see here. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so where are we going to start in this conversation with team building? And I'll be honest, it's going to start in the exact same place that every other place starts in conversation with those exploratory questions. So we definitely need to understand the date of it, the time, more so the length. Remember, it's more so the length. How much time do we need to get this activity done in? And the location. How much space do we have? Do you want something that's citywide? We're going everywhere. Do we need something where we're going to be, building? So we need, more space per person. What kind of, when we talk of the location, it's more so in specifics of kind of space do we have to get this activity done. And then, we talked about it last week, but same thing, demographics of your group are super important, right? So because there are so many activities that can be considered team building and you're working on different elements of building your team, you really need to understand not just the physical capabilities, but also the mental capabilities of people that are going to be participating, because you want these exercises to be fun, but also challenging. So understanding those demographics are also important. But more so than anything else, the most important thing is understanding the goal and the objective of the program, right? So that's why sometimes when I start in conversation and we start on, we're going to do a team building activity, by the end of the conversation, they have maybe said the words like, well, we don't really want anything organized. We just want them to be able to, play a game, with each other, or pool table or whatever. Like, we want them to be able to do that. So for me, I really have to sort of extract what is the goal and the objective. Like, what do you want to accomplish with this function? And, understanding the client's expectations during that initial dialogue is super critical, to prevent that miscommunication and really be able to compare the achievements of the program to the intended results. So that's like super important. I love you, Rosalind. I see all your little things. Good point. You are shaking your head. I love you. I got my amen choir out there, girl. This one's for you. You know what I'm talking about. So whenever someone is truly on point, they really do want a team building activity in its truest sense. I always ask them, what are some reasons? Like, what are you looking for? How do you want to build your team? And I have this list and I'm going to read it off to you. So if you're a client out there and you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'd like to do any of this with my, with a group of people within my company or our entire company or whatever, then maybe a team building program will be for you. So here are some common reasons for incorporating a team building element into your program. To build or improve communication within the team. Make the workplace more enjoyable. Gosh, who wouldn't love that, right? To motivate the team, rally behind a new strategy or a company direction. Sometimes that's tough for people. They don't want to move or change that direction. Doing something fun and innovative like this can actually get them involved in the process, and they can be part of the brainstorming of it. So that's kind of cool. Getting to know each other outside of the office, getting everyone on the same page, having a shared experience between them. Help team members learn more about themselves and really about the other individuals on their team. Improve team productivity. This one I really like. Practice effective collaboration with team members, right? I mean, some teams collaborate, but sometimes it's not very effective. So practice effective collaboration with team members. Celebrate recent achievements, or just simply to have fun. Those are all reasons why you would incorporate team building into your program. And I'll say, overall, the purpose of team building exercises are to assist teams in becoming a cohesive unit of individuals that can effectively work together to complete tasks, right? That's what we want in our workforce. That's what we want in our day-to-day. So, working on that will help build and strengthen that. So overall, that is the reason why someone would put a team building program into their overall event. Right, Roz? Who wouldn't want that? I don't know. Okay. So now one thing that's kind of cool about team building programs is that they provide opportunities for members to combine individual talents and abilities and maybe even learn something. Like maybe somebody doesn't know that I'm an incredible drawer of items. I mean, you all saw my hand-drawn diagrams last week. Maybe people don't know that I'm a great doodler or a great drawer. So you learn things and you combine those talents and those abilities and you develop cooperation and trust and, you know, all those good things that you need to form in a really solid group. So team building activities versus just like networking functions where people kind of walk into a room and they have the ability to sort of do whatever they want. Team building programs, I don't want to say forced interaction, but sometimes they have this level of forced interaction, which is good because it gives, you know, people a chance to interact with senior management, other partners at different branches, maybe key employees or vendors that they wouldn't normally walk up to and talk to. So it just really gives people an opportunity to connect on a different level. So that's another really great reason. And we all know if everyone feels comfortable with another person, then, you know, the things that they can achieve will multiply tremendously. So ultimately, that's what we want. We're just trying to build that sort of interaction so that people are feeling more comfortable and they're talking and they're achieving more. So once we've established the goal, the objective, the reason why they're wanting to team build, I'm going to take that information and I'm going to try to basically fit the appropriate type of team building to achieve the result that they want. So I've got about 6 general types that we're going to go through really quickly today. And I want to just say this. I have my DMCP, which is the Destination Management Certified Professional. I was certified through ADME, which is the Association of Destination AD Executives Management. Oh, am I saying that right? Oh my gosh. ADME. Oh, here we go. Association of Destination Management Executives International. So when we go through that, we have to like study this book. They're coming out with a new one. It's the best practices in destination management. And we'll talk a little bit more about like what destination management is and what that means actually in week 7 as well. But I wanted to kind of give credit to this book because it really helps me to formulate my thoughts and how best to share team building with you. So I'm just going to give like a little shout out to this book. Okay, so we've got 6 general types of team building. 1, problem solving and decision making. 2, communication. 3, planning and adaptability. 4 is trust. 5 is like a personality based. And then 6 would be experiential activity. So those are kind of the 6 general types. So once we've decided they're going to have a team building program, they want a team building program, here are the things that they'd really like to see improve within their team. Then these are the kind of the areas that we're reaching into to figure out which activity is going to be right for them. So we're going to slide through all 6 of these, kind of talk about what their focus is, what the goal is, and then what some examples would be. So first one, problem solving and decision making. These types of programs are really going to focus specifically on groups working together to solve problems. Straightforward, right? All right. So the goal of these are to give a team a problem in which the solution is not easily apparent. And then basically it requires the team to come up with a creative solution. That's the goal of any type of team building exercise that's working on problem solving or decision making skills. So some examples of that would be like a murder mystery dinner, a scavenger hunt, puzzle solving games, or even like survivor style challenges. We once did I custom created a scavenger hunt at Ripley's Aquarium where they had to do like photos and video challenges. And it was hilarious. Like I don't even want to show pictures today because I'm pretty sure I could bribe this group with those photos like to this day. And the videos are hilarious. But you know, the teams are really cool because, you know, one team just ran out the door and they started like trying to find whatever, and they got more points for the amount of people that were in the photo together. So they really had more points if they were all together. and didn't like try to break up and divide and conquer. So you had some that like ran out the door, and then you had others that, you know, sat there and they were like, okay, well, if we do all of the video challenges, then we can make, you know, this many points. So they really had to like sit down and strategize. And it's just really neat to kind of see how different teams approach different problems. And what was cool about that one was, of course, we collected all of the photos and all of the videos. And then we had them running through dinner. So they got to enjoy seeing everyone else's photos and all their videos. So that was a really cool time. Okay. Second one, communication. This one too is very straightforward. It is focusing on exactly what it sounds like. Communicating. So you are basically going to be using problem-solving skills, or problem-solving activities to make people talk to each other. They're geared towards improving those communication skills. You know, so the issues that they encounter are solved by communicating effectively with each other. And that isn't that important. Sometimes it's just so hard to communicate, even in like the workplace. So these exercises are really good for that. So the goal is to create an activity which highlights the importance of good communication, and then it can show you what maybe some consequences would be if there's not that great of communication. So these activities can kind of show both sides of that. So examples of that might be like Amazing Race, or survivor style challenges, or even like movie making, which what I mean when I say movie making is basically you've got your team, but someone's in charge of, you know, you've got to work together to come up with the costumes and the scripting and the storyboard. And there's all these different elements that you have to communicate effectively to be able to make sure they all tie in together. Like one person can't just walk around and go do the costumes and never know the storyboard or the, you know, or the scripting. Same with the scripting. Like it all has to work together and they have to communicate to build those movies. So that's a cool one too. 3 would be planning and adaptability. So these exercises focus on the aspects of planning and being able to adapt to change. Wow, these are also really important things for teams to be able to do whenever they are at work and in their working environment. So, you know, again, exercise just to help people do this together. So the goal of this would be to show the importance of planning before implementing. So examples of that might be like culinary challenges, or like build your own stuff like boats or mini golf courses. And like I said, you know, like that survivor style or the scavenger hunt we did, you know, like I said, some people sat down and really strategized what it was. Some people didn't. At the end of the night, these people that had been running around for 2 hours trying to get a point here, a point there, a point here, a point there, still came up short, because people that sat down and really strategized how to make the most amount of points in the shortest amount of time, those were the people that really did well. So, you know, you'll find in a lot of these exercises, they overlap, and that's okay, because we're not exclusive to doing just one activity because we only want to build this one thing. It's just what I'm kind of highlighting is what are some good examples that would really focus on what you're trying to work on the most. All right, so then we're to 4 now. So 4 was trust. Trust, I know that everyone in your lifetime has done some sort of like trust exercise, team building, whether with your youth group, like in a church, or Girl Scouts, or Boy Scouts. Like, you've done it before in your lifetime, I can promise you. And the thing about trust exercises is that they're hard, simply because there's obviously varying degrees of trust within groups anyways. But then you're also kind of fighting that battle of like trusting people in general. So working on trust team building it can be really tough, because you're really kind of fighting through a lot of different levels of people's fears and insecurities, right? So these are kind of tough, but the goal of these are ultimately to design an activity that can be completed to create trust between the members. So the first example, and I'm sure if everyone could shout at me through their computer screen or your phone screen right now, what would be the first example? Ropes course. Trust falls. Like, all these little things where you have to have other people to be able to do it. You wouldn't want to do a trust fall and not have anybody on the ground to catch you, right? Okay. So, ropes courses are a really great example. Blind go-kart driving are also really good. I also really think that would be a good one in communication. I'd like to do that maybe in my marriage. I think that might really help our communication skills. But any type of like blindfolded activities, that builds trust. You really have to lean on that other person to be able to get through that activity. So like I said, the thing about the trust ones is that you really have to acknowledge that it can be really scary. Like I was talking to one of my clients last week and we were talking about team building. I was telling her she needs to come and watch this. And like her first response was like, oh my gosh, we did this ropes course and we had this trust stuff and I hated it because I was so scared. Which is, it's scary. Like some people, you don't know if people are going to catch you. And that's the whole point of the exercise, is that you just have to trust that they will. And I don't know why I ever write a script, because I always go off on my own little tangents. I'll say whenever I met Will, there was this meme that we both shared between us. And, it was like, there was this itty bitty little circle that said, your comfort zone. And then over here, it was this big circle and it said where the magic happens. And so many times with these team building exercises, people will come into the program and they just don't want to do it. They don't want to get involved in it. They don't want to do the trust stuff. They're scared. They're uncomfortable, whatever. The reality is like, there's this itty bitty circle that's your comfort zone. But like out here, when you really stretch yourself, like this is where the magic happens. So another good reason why you'd want to do a team building program. Okay. So 5 would be a personality based exercise. Now, maybe people have done this, maybe not. Basically, members of the team are going to fill out a personality questionnaire, and they're going to learn about themselves. They're going to learn about others, and then the team is going to be able to use the results as a basis of discussion, developing, action steps, developing exercises amongst them, or maybe just understanding that, like, maybe you got homegirl in, accounting, and maybe one of her strengths should be, I doubt this is a great example, but maybe one of her strengths is public speaking, and that, she's sitting behind a desk all the time and you're not really, utilizing her in certain ways. So it's really eye-opening. I've actually, goal of this, before I let myself get off of it, goal of this would be, the underlying rationale for this approach is that if team members better understand each other, such as the differences in how team members perceive, or they make decisions, or they react to events, they can learn how to better communicate and deal with each other. In essence, enhancing the team's effectiveness. So examples would be like Myers-Briggs, or like a DISC profile personality testing. I've actually done both of these, and actually did the DISC one with the company, actually with Leo Events. And it was so cool because, we were guessing on what we thought everyone else would fall under. And like, it was, whenever they answered the questions and the actual answers came out, like they were totally different. So it was really neat to understand other people. And it's always cool to understand yourself. That's the reason why you do quizzes on Facebook and stuff, right? It's the reason why you read your horoscope. Like, you want to learn about yourself. So we always love learning about ourselves, but in instances like this, the reason why this type of team building exercise is kind of cool is because you really get to understand other people that you're working with. Now, one plug that I'm going to put in here right now that I sort of live by is the 5 love languages. I am a firm believer that if you can understand how people receive love or give love, then it's going to make you a better wife, a better friend, a better manager. I just sort of live by those. So ultimately, whenever I'm working with anyone, and that's been if I've been a manager over 70 plus employees, or maybe it's just one, anytime that I'm working with someone, the first thing I'm trying to decide and understand about that individual is what makes them tick, what makes them feel love. If I figure out they're a words of affirmation person, if they do something great, I am going to say the words, wow, you did great, great job. Whereas if maybe their physical touch is their love language, I'm going to come by and I'm going to give them a huge high five. So understanding that sort of tick in a good way, can make you better all around. So 5 love languages. There's my plug for them too. Love them. Okay. So now last, certainly not least, is experiential activities. And this tends to be the most common. This is typically what people are looking for when they're looking for, team building activities. They simply want to have fun. This is what's most often confused with team recreation or camaraderie activities. But this type of team building is also great because it's just this shared experience, and it has a lot of positive benefits for a team. So, it helps to see other people in a different light than what they would normally see them at work. It creates a relaxed environment where people might be more comfortable talking to someone that they wouldn't normally talk to before. And the beauty of it is that what you're doing for them is that you're giving them something to talk about, right? How many times have you just like walked in a room and it's like, you want to talk to somebody, but you have no idea what to say? Well, this type of team building is basically allowing them to be like, oh man, I saw you hit that shot in the volleyball game, or wow, you got a strike. Like, you got like 2 people that would never ever talk in the work environment high-fiving at a bowling alley. Like, that's what you're creating with this experiential activity. So the goal of this is just create an experience that allows team members to bond outside of their standard work environment. And then examples of that would be like wacky bowling, Olympic style, or like sports style challenges. So just things that get people doing the same activity that they can talk about later. Now, I will say, let's talk about it. What makes experiential activities under team building different than team recreation, camaraderie style events? And the answer to that question is that it's very simple. There's like 3 parts that make up a team building activity. Okay. Part 1 is the instructions. You have got to provide the participants with the information they need to do the activity. So to me, this is a super important step. And why it's so beneficial to have a professional facilitator, because the reality is that initial conversation is going to be the key to success in the program. If you have someone who doesn't really know what's going on, doesn't really know what the end result is, like just kind of someone that they're like, here, just introduce the activity, and they don't know what you're trying to create there, it can lead the participants to be very frustrated and aggravated. And then, how many times have you gone through something that you've gotten frustrated and aggravated, and then they want you to do something and now you're just mad about it. And then at the end of it, it's just this overall negative experience, right? So it is so important to have that professional facilitator that is really trying to lead and guide the team in the right direction. So part 1 is instruction. Part 2 is the activity. Once they have their instructions, they have to complete the task. And then part 3, which is truly the most important, is the debriefing. So, once they've done this true team building exercise, group members, they need a chance to sort of reflect on the activity, understand it, understand what they've learned. It's like I said, that professional facilitator that's so important in part 1, they're the most important part in part 3, just because they're going to close the event with a review of, what the purpose was of the exercise, how the team achieved the goal, and they're really going to walk away being like, man, like that was really cool. Like, like maybe they didn't know exactly what was happening in the beginning. They just knew they could understand the rules. And then at the end of it, it's like this whole world opened up to their knowledge of what they were able to take away from that experience. So 3 parts: instructions, activity, debriefing. That's what makes a team building program, versus if you just put games out in the middle of a reception and hope that they play the games. Okay, so that's pretty much the 6 general types. There is the one last thing I want to hit on, because I do think it's super, super important to understand. And I didn't put it under a general type of team building simply because it can really fall under any general type. But so many times people ask me for a CSR program or a CSR team building program. What does CSR stand for? It stands for the corporate social responsibility. What does that mean? It means that it is the responsibility, let's make sure I say it right. It's the responsibility of an organization for the impacts of its decisions and activities on society, the environment, and its prosperity. So people, planet, profit. Now, I will say, just like when I get requests for team building activities, this is typically what they're going for. Because I've been through a lot of speaker things where I've watched them talk about millennials, and the thing that's really kind of come up is that people don't want business just to be about business anymore. It's not just about me. They want it to be about the world and the environment. So what companies have really found about CSR programs are that they boost employee morale and retention. Whenever they are giving back to a community, it makes the person feel good about themselves, makes them feel good about the company that they're working for. It can also increase sales, simply because, if part of your proceeds are going to a nonprofit or a cause that someone else believes in strongly, they're going to rally behind it. And then it also retains customer loyalty, because companies recognize that it's important to have that positive and, that positive image in society. And so with that, it can retain that customer loyalty as well. So that's why they see value in CSR programs, just even within like the company itself. But the idea is that companies no longer really want to just come to a hotel, show up, have their meeting, pay their bill, and leave. Like, they want more than that. They want to feel like, whenever they're leaving, they're leaving something behind as this, permanent reminder of, their presence in that community, or at that venue or wherever, and, just what their priorities were when they were there. So the goal of CSR programs are to create an experience where people can come together for a common goal of benefiting others. And then some examples, which there's so many examples of this because they fall under every type of team building, but would be like build your own events where, you're building bikes and you're giving it to boys and girls clubs, or building wheelchairs and giving it to veterans, building wagons and stuffing teddy bears for maybe foster children. But it can be, filling backpacks, creating care packages for troops, creating artwork for hospitals, nursing homes, building playgrounds. I mean, there are so many. I know I mentioned earlier something about like a build your own mini golf course. Well, I have seen it done where they use canned foods to build all these mini golf courses. And then when it's over, they donate all of those food cans to the local food bank. So, and even like scavenger hunts, that can be, they're going around and they're trying to find these pieces of the puzzle, and the pieces of the puzzles can come together and they make this huge check. And this huge check is a donation to some local, local nonprofit, or just, to something that they truly believe in as a company and is their mission. So CSR programs are really cool. People feel good about each other. They feel good about their company, and then the benefiting communities and the individuals that, see the other side of that. They reap these lasting and generally, I'll say, invaluable rewards. So that's it. That's team building. I said this one would be short and sweet this week. I wanted to just sort of show you, we did a team building activity. This one was actually 2 years ago, and it was for 260 people. So it was a big one. But I just kind of want to give you an example in real life, real time, what they kind of consist of, how they sort of work, how they can accomplish that goal. So I'm going to give you I'm going to do like a little storyboard with pictures. So we're going to they had to, the bikes came with locks and helmets and all kinds of things. So basically, we did this really quick icebreaker so they could get to know each other. Yeah, so they did these really cool, like, it was real quick. It was maybe like 5-10. We had 260 people trying to put themselves in order of like their birthday. So that one took like 10 minutes, but then we divvied them up. They got into groups. The first thing they did was try to solve kind of this like weekly challenge. So the very first one, and they had team captain, so not everyone could just like run up there and try to everyone talks at one time. They had one person that could like represent the team. So they ran up there and then they would give it to one of our team members there, and these little green bags were actually toolkits. So they had stuff inside of them that they were going to need once they were able to get their bike. So they started with the puzzle, and then the puzzle, once they passed that, then they got their toolkit. This is their little toolkit. So cute. Inside the toolkit, they also had these, like a piece of paper and some markers, and they had to write a message to the child that was going to receive this bike. So then from there, I got to make sure I did this in order here. So then from there, oh yeah, this is them. They're still working on it. They have to make everything, and they're solving the puzzles. And then we had a next level where they actually had to, like, if there were 30 questions, they had to get 27 of them right before they could advance. And if they only got 24 of them right, then they had to go back to their team, and the team had to keep working through it. So it wasn't just like an A for effort. It was like, no, you have to get stuff right. So this was our team checking off the stuff. And then once they got a mark that they were done, then the team captain would take it back over to the station to pick up the next part. So here it is. The bikes did not come put together. They were definitely in different pieces. They had to like put them together. Here we go. This is them putting it together. This is one where they're almost done with it. So they're going through this. Once they get that done, now they're back at it, and they have to figure out, like, okay, what's next? So they always have these little quiz things that they have to fill out. And so basically at this point, they're going for, see if I can find it. So they're going for helmets, bike locks. And then once they get done with all that, then they still have these, every time they have to like finish something and get it checked off. And then they have this station over here, which they actually have to go and they have to pump up the tire. And then we had another little station which this is the main facilitator. He was the only one that was allowed to actually check these things. But he would actually get on and like check and make sure you could ride the bike, that all the nuts and bolts were secure, that it could hold the weight. So we didn't just make them and then like pass them off. Like they had to go through like a full out inspection before they could be done with it. So after that, and this, falls in that same line of how much time do you have to get done with something. We actually then went into bike races, which they loved this part. Like this, I think this was maybe their favorite part, because they were just like all about it. Like this guy was like, take my picture on my bike. Like he was so excited. But once we kind of got done with that, we did have little medals for the winning team or whatever. Actually, no, I take that back. That was a different one. This one, I think everyone was a winner, to be honest. But everyone kind of went back to their table with their bikes, and this was a surprise for them, but we actually brought out some kids from the Boys and Girls Club that they came there and they got to accept the bikes. So they were super excited about it. Here's like their bikes on the truck. This was like the company loading everything up. And, and I'll say like, this was our group, 260 people. The bikes are all lined up behind them, but as you can tell, it was kind of hard to get everybody in the photo. And then I'm just going to put this little guy out here because this was the team of the day. We had a pretty big team because there were a lot of different stations in this one. We had Corey there rocking out music. So we kind of had this fun, cool environment going on while they were doing it. We had a gorgeous day. Wind was a little high, but whatever. And I'll say, we can pull this off somewhere, and I'll say the thing about this that was even cooler was that once we got through all of that, I actually think we put together 66 bikes. Like we've got a few extra bikes because each team did too. We got a few extra bikes. The people went back in, they put those bikes together so that they could go. And then one of the participants actually went to the executive director for the Boys and Girls Club and asked if there was anything else, like did everybody get a bike, like whatever. And she was like almost everybody. She goes, we did it. She goes, we did before we wanted to make sure everyone could. So we actually, because all we need is another $1,600. And then that way we'll be able to buy everybody bikes. So thank you. Like, she was more than appreciative, but she was like, once we're done with this, like, we're going to go and we're going to raise $1,600. So that way we make sure we give everybody bikes all at the same time. And like, the company was just, they were awesome. Like, that day they actually went around, like, I was not even involved in this. They did this all on their own. They went around and actually just raised money within themselves. And like, I actually got a call the next day from the client. She was like, hey, like, they said they needed $1,600 to finish the bike. She's like, we've raised $2,600 and we just want to give it all to them. And so I was like, absolutely. So, I get chills. It like gives me chills because it was such a great experience. Like, not just the company, but the children. And like, I loved being a part of something that was big and life-changing. And, those kids are forever going to be like, my gosh, we got these really awesome bikes from, this company that came in town, and they just wanted, to give back to the community. So CSR programs are our team building. They're just far beyond team building in just a feel good, give back sort of way. So I definitely wanted to highlight them all on their own. Okay. I hope I have shed some light on team building programs. If you have any other questions, or you want to know more about them, or you want to explore like what they might look like for your event, talk to me, send me a message. Let's figure it out. But that's it. That is team building in a little itty bitty nutshell. And so thanks for tuning in. That's week 5. I'm kind of watching and seeing. I see, Chris Watts watching, RP, Santana, Scott. Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I don't see any like pertinent questions. Feel free. I will say this, I like to give little tips and tricks. Wait, before you hit this, because if you've made it to the end, then this is going to be like just for you, because I know a lot of people don't make it to this point. Here is my tip and trick for success on outdoor, windy, or rainy days. Are you ready? Fake hair. Now, y'all have been seeing my hair down every single week, and that is my real hair. But this war paint and this mop right here, this is how you survive. Because ultimately, by the time the event rolls around and you've been sweating for like 8 hours to get it set up, you don't want to look like the disheveled one who doesn't know what she's doing. So my advice is find you a really good hair piece that you can just bobby clip in. You'll look like a rock star all day. That is a tip to success. All right. So thanks for tuning in. If you can't get enough of us here on Tuesday's just not enough for you, please go over to our website, www.invents.com, and subscribe to our newsletter. We do send out every other Thursday just an inspiration board. So we try to kind of cover lots of cool things. We're trying to kind of correlate them to match what we're talking about in this series, but it could be anything. So if you're not getting enough of us here on Tuesday, definitely come check us out there, grab the newsletter. And before I get off, I do want to just extend a special invitation. Anyone, if you know me, you know I love to sing. If you don't know me, you have no idea that I love to sing, but I do love to sing, and I'm actually not bad at it. But I have a really unique opportunity this Saturday. The community theater I've been performing in for 9 years. It's been around for 50 years. It is doing a virtual telethon. So it is trying to raise money right now because it is a nonprofit theater, and they're raising money. Last Saturday they did it. They raised almost $13,000. So we're hoping to do the same, if not better, this week. So it starts at 7:00. It is Theater of the Republic. It's their Facebook page. And if you are not doing anything, tune in, watch it. There's going to be, I think there's like 24 new performers than last week. I will be one of them. I'll probably be going on around 9:30, but if you're in a position, please watch, enjoy, donate. But this is definitely a nonprofit that I feel strongly in just because I love the arts and I love our community theater. So I'm just going to extend that invitation. That's this Saturday, which is May the 9th, 7:00, Theater of the Republic's Facebook page. Okay, I think I've done everything. All right, so we'll be back next Tuesday, 1 p.m. on our Facebook page for week 6. Wow, week 6 of our 8-week informational series. And we are going to be talking about transportation logistics. It's not the fun or pretty stuff whatsoever, but if you don't know what it is and you have programs that you're working on, this can certainly be something that would help benefit you and your brain on site, especially if you have lots of different moving pieces in the transportation world. So transportation logistics next week, 1 p.m. Tuesday, in Mint's Facebook page. We'll see you there.